Hello, welcome to Pointless Nostalgia. I'm Guy Hutchinson. Today we are getting pointlessly nostalgic for news from 100 years ago this month. This is from April of 1923. These are all from the Reading Eagle. I searched around, tried to get the best articles. I hope you like these. If you do, please make sure you subscribe below, click thumbs up, share this with a friend, everything else, and let's go. All right. The headline says, stays in bed to dodge Friday the 13th jinx. This is in Macon, Georgia. This was April 13th, which I guess was Friday the 13th. It says that this businessman was spending today in bed, like a lot of businessmen. It says, while working on an automobile many months ago, a steel splinter destroyed the sight of one eye. So this guy's down to one eye, and that was on the 13th of the month. So not a Friday, but the 13th. The next 13th, so like a month later, he broke his arm while cranking an automobile. So he's getting out there. They had cranks back then. They'd crank them up. It's kind of like, it was sort of like today. You got those electric vehicles. You got to crank those, right? You got a big crank. And then a month later, it was also on the 13th, he slipped in his garage. He broke his leg. Maybe this guy should just stay out of the garage, though. These are all three of these things are in the garage. 2 months after that, he was able, by extra precautions, to avoid a mishap. Oh, well, that's good. Then the 13th came again, and he was watching mechanics repair an automobile, and a block broke loose, and it smashed his foot. Again, stay out of the garage, dude. Last month, on the 13th, a fire destroyed his garage, so he stayed out of it, and it's still caught on fire. So today's combination, Friday and the 13th, too much for him. This dude's just staying in bed. Stay out of that garage. And now that the garage burned down, he should be fine, because I feel like that was where all his bad luck was. All right, let's see what's next. King's dehydrated fruits and vegetables, the finest table quality ingredients from King's. Look at the king with a royal proclamation telling you to eat this food. It is table treats. They're healthful. They are appealing variety. You can get them now. They're from Portland, Oregon. All right, oh no, this is sad. We got a dead child, all right, but was 100 years ago, so this kid would have died of old age likely by now. So I guess it's really not too soon, but this was a thing people believed, and I was really glad to find this because I've heard of this, and I was glad to see it in print. Blames cat for child's death. And let me read this to you, then we'll talk about it a little bit. A cat is blamed for the death of Lloyd S., a 3-month-old son of Clarence Ryan. The feline was seen by the mother sneaking from the baby's room. Now, cats are always sneaking, so if a cat is walking, it's sneaking. Where the baby was asleep, and later the child was found dead. The mother believes the cat sucked the child's breath, smothering it. So this was a thing people worried about. There is zero truth in this. So this child had something else. It's very sad that this happened, but cats do not have, they believe that they had the ability, and I think there's a horror movie that plays on this, but they would put their little cat mouth up to your baby, and they'd go and they'd pull all that child's breath out, and the child would just suffocate and die there. Not true. So this cat was not guilty. This is probably a double tragedy because that cat was probably thrown in a bag with rocks and tossed into a lake. But again, 100 years ago, not too soon. Smoke better cigarettes. Yes, there's something about them you'll like. Something. A quarter again for cigarettes every time you light a Tarrytown. You know you're going to get what you always hoped you get, a thoroughly enjoyable smoke. I like that enjoyable smoke is like one word. It's either they couldn't fit it in there or maybe that was their catchphrase. Herbert Tarrytown, London cigarettes. And look at the mascot there. Oh, there's something about them you'll like. And he's got his monocle. He's like, oh, by Jove, you'll like these. Oh, they are so, the tobacco is delicious. Charms and big cake. Tonight, King George and Queen Mary will have a reception which the elite of society will meet with the Duke and his fiancée at Buckingham Palace. So this is 100 years ago. This is before Queen Elizabeth, who died, a couple months back. Tomorrow's festivities at Buckingham Palace. The bride will cut the wedding cake in the form of a Chinese pagoda. So the wedding cake, she's going to use a sword to cut it. It's going to be a Chinese pagoda. And inside will be a ring, a thimble, a button, what is this? A horseshoe, a miniature donkey, and a goose. What are these? Were they going to play Monopoly after this? Is this they say charms. Isn't this Lucky Charms? Is that what he had? Did he say, oh, we've got a ring, a thimble, a horseshoe, a miniature donkey, and a goose? They say one of the most unique gifts received by the Duke from the United States is a wonderful wireless receiving set built into a mahogany table. It's the gift of a New York admirer. Interesting. Interesting. All right. Let's see what's next. Pink tea is profitable. I don't need to know more. Use of soft drink has doubled since 1914. Now, let's be honest though. The reason it's doubling, let's see what this says. If there are industries that have suffered since 1914 from the country's attack of prohibition, there's at least one that's doubled since that year. That's right. In 1921, according to the figures compiled by the Census Bureau, it was 98%, the banner, blah, 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 blah. Okay, there was prohibition. People were drinking more soda. That makes sense, right? Exceptional values in the men's department. It's just like this weird cartoon. This weird cartoon of this guy. That's the head from in Buzz Lightyear, not Buzz Lightyear, in Toy Story. Sid puts this head on this thing and it rolls around and that's the head. And then he's got two neckties hanging around him. They've got a variety of silk ties. Gave liquor to a neighbor. All right, Mrs. Christine Anderson of Laurel Street, charged under the prohibition law. She gave liquor to her. Oh, these two ladies having a little liquor. They went to jail. That's sad. Famous Bell's Electric Told. So it says the successors of Quasimodo, and then it explains who that is, because back then people couldn't be like, oh, I don't know Quasimodo, what is that? They'd have to, the newspaper has to tell you back then because you couldn't look it up. It says here that an electric motor is being installed for tolling the bell. So this is the first time, this is 100 years ago, first time that an electric motor was ringing the bells there. It says Popular Mechanics magazine. It doesn't say that it does say like the bell ringer of Notre Dame. It doesn't specifically say that this is happening at Notre Dame, but I think that's what they're implying. And that's very cool. Notre Dame, I know, burnt down 2 years ago, I guess, at this point. Maybe it's mostly rebuilt. I know it had a bad fire, but there you go. Popular Mechanics magazine reporting that the police were uncomfortable in their winter uniforms. It was hot. It was looks like 85 degrees on Saturday afternoon, and so they were uncomfortable in their winter uniforms. So that's made the news. It was people were wondering about it. Working radio antenna hat, one of the fantastic hats worn at the great millinery show in Cincinnati. Popular Mechanics was all over the place, by the way. It had two towers on your head and then wires, and you looked like you were tuned in. And then it says linseed oil used in this country in paints is a staple edible oil in Russia. Oh, so linseed oil. You could use it in paint here, but in Russia, you just could eat the paint. It's delicious. Okay. This is good. Inhale your food. Don't eat it. The secret of lifelong flapperism. From Philadelphia, they say to stay young and fresh, don't eat your food, inhale it. This is the secret of perpetual flapperism. It's imparted to members of the American Philosophical Society by Dr. Paul Hoopt, professor of Semitic languages at Johns Hopkins University. Dr. Hoopt declared the overeating was the principal cause of haggard appearance of many at the age of 35. Too much synthetic gin is drunk straight, too much tobacco smoke, too many other things. So he says you should inhale your food. All right. Marathon shufflers sent to oh man, they were shuffling for a marathon period of time. It says the grimmer side of America's dance record vogue loomed today when 3 victims, a man and 2 women, were sent to hospital after collapsing at the end of about 48 hours of dancing. Oh man, they were cutting a rug and they collapsed. They saved a goat from a fire. It was 100 years ago, so I know you're like, oh, was it the greatest of all time? Some super great basketball player in the year before basketball was invented? No. A pen in the yard occupied by a goat and a chicken were discovered ablaze by Harry Shipe, a railroader, and the first thing he did was release the Billy, the goat, whose hair had been singed with the flames. The chickens were also rescued. So the goat takes the headline, but this guy also rescued the chickens, so that's good. Individual stationery, it's just what you've been waiting for. Personal printed stationery. You could say your name, and then you could write notes to people, and they'd be like, "Who's this from?" They'd flip it over. They'd be like, "Oh my God, individualized stationery." A new gliding record was made by a French pilot. Oh, I am gliding. I am, how you say, record breaking. Oh. Every one pimple can ruin your looks. Triple S stops pimples. It's like Triple H. He comes in. He's like, "I'm now Triple S, stopping your pimples." Look at her. She's like, "I've got one pimple and it's over. My looks are ruined." Miss Ethel Rose, she said, "I followed your advice in regard to SSS, and I am pleased to state that I've been greatly benefited by it. Blah, blah, blah. Her skin is now clear. She no longer has a pimple. She doesn't have a muddy face, a poor blood with a muddy face," it says. So yeah, get your SSS. White diarrhea in baby chicks. But put this in the drinking water and you could stop in 48 hours. If you got if some baby chicks are around with some white diarrhea, you want to get rid of it. That's how you do it. There was a Brown party. It says a party at the residence of Mr. and Mrs. Daniel Brown on Chestnut Street. Those present were Anita Good, George Holsclaw. I like that. Holsclaw. Would you like some coleslaw? No, I'm having some Holsclaw. Let's see. Mr. Earl Good, Daniel Brown. Master Brown received numerous beautiful gifts. They were enjoyed. Oh, games and refreshments happened. Man, I wish I was there. The steam shovel was placed at the... So this is other stuff now. They're going to... They're building a new church. Laura Stump. She was removed from the hospital as a surgical patient, and there was entertainment. So boy, there's quite a party going on. Look at this guy in his khaki jeans shirt. He's like, that's 100 years ago. This was style. Look at this guy. This guy, I don't know what. I don't know what is going on with this guy. He's got his arms crossed. He's holding like a bat, and he's like, whatever you guys are, I'm tired of what you guys are up to. I don't know. Looks violent. Ha, 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 ha. Okay, brace yourself. This sounds like it's going to be funny. Make sure you're seated. Make sure you have comfortable clothes on. The rumor that MG Albert retired from Strand Cafe is false. Albert is here to stay until the lease expires March 31st, 1927. The dining room is open from 7 a.m. to 12, giving you high-quality food and the best of service. Dancing and cabaret show tonight. No cover charge. Your patronage appreciated. MG Albert. I don't know what you got to know where to put your ha, 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 exclamation point, and I don't believe that's where it belongs. Faculty forbids knickers. So the faculty at some school, let's see where it is. It says, when Miss Dorothy Thurston, of the Southampton Thurstons, and Miss Bernard Schneip appeared at local high school in fashionable knickers, they said that this fad is not allowed. So no knickers. All right, let's see what's last. Miniature bride and groom. Little tiny bride and groom. Were they small people? Let's see what it says. There was a shower. They had a box. And a cake with a miniature bride and groom. You guys have seen those before. That's all it is. I hope you like this video. Make sure to click this for another video. Make sure to click that for a different video because they're popped up. Let's see what's going on here. They had baskets of roses. The guests were happy. This sounds like a lot of fun. I like this. The miniature bride and groom. This is like probably the first time anybody did that. I think it went out of style since then. But you have a little bride and groom on the cake. All right, click the box.